welcome to Stitches and Starlight. My name is Tashiana, but you can call me Tashi because that's what all my friends do, and we're friends now. I'm coming to you from my home in Brooklyn that I share with my husband Joshua and the two hell kittens, actual cats, not humans, Minerva and Astoria. And this is my corner of the internet where we talk about all the things that I am knitting and spinning and sewing and potentially weaving. It is just fiber joy and wool chaos all the time. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on the thumbnail. There are a million voices these days clamoring for your attention on the internet, and you saw whatever this is and decided to give it a go. If you're a returning viewer, you already know what time it is. Thanks so much for being a rad human. You guys are just gonna put it out there. I've been gone for a while. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Spoons were low, existing commitments were high, and this is the one that I chose to just let kind of roll away. And again, since we did like our goals, what was that video called in January? It was not quite a New Year's resolution. It was something semi-adjacent to it. I did a thing, I don't remember what it was, but one of the things I said was I was not going to force myself to film if I didn't have the energy and the resources, and I just didn't. But I do now, so we're here. And if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen that I've still been making, just at like a slower rate, less interested in productivity for productivity's sake, and more just like, these are the things that bring me joy, and this is what I'm making these days. But I have been making. This is going to be something kind of in the middle of a from the workshop update and like an actual podcast. It's not going to have like podcast format because no. So we're just going to talk about the things that I've been up to over the last some odd months, and I'll show you some stuff, and then we'll say goodbye. That's the vibe. That's the vibe. So I thought I'd start with something that I think you guys might enjoy, and I have a bit of a handspun show and tell. There's a lot of yarn here. There's a lot of yarn. I'm gonna try to do this as quickly as possible so we're not like staring at handspun for a while because there are other things that I want to show you, but also let's make sure we give the yarn that I've made its due attention because I worked really hard on it. So we'll do spindle spun yarn first. So I have two skeins of yarn that I spun supported and then plied on my e-spinner. Here's one of them. This is Last Light of Durin, and it's by Fossil Fibers, and it's on Corriedale. And again, I spun this supported. If I remember, I can put a picture of the spindles. I spun this supported for, they were doing a bit of, what was it? We were trying to just drum up good feelings for Corrie. So Corrie at Fossil Fibers had a few, like a pretty extensive medical situation over like March, and so everyone decided that we were going to spin some fiber from Corrie for Fossil Fibers to just kind of like, you know, drum up some good feelings. So here is my yarn, and I realized that my lights are washing this out considerably. I'm out of practice. We are just going to have to go with it. Maybe after this I might mess it around with it, but yes, here's my yarn. So I spun this 3-ply across my spindles, and I didn't do any real color management. All I did was like split the braid into 6 pieces, like evenly. And then I hand carded it into row lags on my hand cards, spun it up supported, and plied them from a plying ball. And I have 425 yards of 3-ply, real squishy yarn. This is finished. I don't show you yarn that has not been finished, but this has been finished. It's been washed, dried, and then re-skeined. And look at how beautifully that hangs. Real pretty, real balanced. If I spend this long talking about every single skein of yarn I have to show you, we will never finish. So here's my other skein of supported spun yarn. And I started this last August. And it just took me a while to get it done. So this is Snorkeling, and it's on BFL. It's by Three Waters Farm. I think probably 425 yards of this. I have all my yardage written down, but the amount of time it would take me to dig all that information up when I have not labeled my skeins would just take too long. So I also spun this 3-ply, and I spun these all on my Goddess spindles. So if you're not familiar with the Goddess spindles are by a maker named Mizpah, and she no longer makes them anymore. So the only way to get them is to get them on D-Stash, and I have a few. I have like a dozen. And I spun them all on my Goddess spindles. Same thing. This time, actually, I transferred them to weaving bobbins and plied from weaving bobbins. But those are my 2 spindle spun yarns. And I think, to be quite honest, they might be my first spindle spun yarns, which is quite comical because I started support spindle spinning last January. And I think that's quite comical that those are actually the first yarns to come off my support spindles because I'm I'm really good at starting things and very bad at finishing them, which, you know, if you've watched the show before, you know, that's not a surprise to you. You know exactly what time it is when it comes to me finishing things. Okay, I have some other stuff. This is Subtle Compliments, and this is also on BFL, and it's also by Three Waters Farm. Marianne at Three Waters has my favorite BFL base, so whenever she has BFL in the shop, if it's a color that I like, I'm not buying top anymore, guys. We're going to put this out there. I'm not buying top anymore. I have too much. I'm actually actively giving it away. But for a really long time, whenever Marianne had BFL in the shop, I went nuts. So this is Subtle Compliments, also 3-ply. I really like 3-ply yarns, especially for things like, especially for fibers like Cori and BFL that don't have as much bloom and don't have as much of that poof factor when they get in the washing. I really like a 3-ply yarn, so I can end up with a really round yarn. This is one of my favorites. And this is, I think I got 350 yards. Spun this on my Electric Eel 6. This is 100% going in the yoke of a sweater. As soon as I find a pattern for it, it is 100% going into the yoke of a sweater because it's, again, Subtle Compliments. It's really soft, really pretty. The color transitions are not like super harsh or super scary. And I think it's going to blend really pretty into the yoke of a sweater. I might even do a subtle contrast on this and do it with maybe like a really pale like oatmeal yarn. Like I think this against my neck would just be really pretty. So that's the vibe for that yarn. We are making progress. This was okay. So I kind of lost the plot on this a little bit. This is Wisp. Yes, this is Wisp on Cheviot or Cheviot. I know people say it differently. And this is dyed by Wee Chickadee. And I first pulled this fiber out because I intended to spin a sock yarn. And then I fully lost the plot on this and spun lace weight yarn instead. And I have 720 yards of it. So it is definitely not sock yarn. And for a hot second, I thought about applying it and then plying it back on itself for a cable yarn. Because if I have 720 yards of it washed, if I cable plied it, I'd probably get close to 300 yards, which would make it... I mean, I think that's enough for socks for me. I have giant feet. I think that's enough for socks for me. So I'm still waffling about whether this is in its final state because I can, you know, it would be really easy to apply this and then cable ply it on itself and get closer to like maybe a sport weight yarn. That might be easier for knitting socks. I'm not knitting socks with lace weight yarn. It's not happening. So I don't know what I'm going to do with the 720 yards of this that I have. It is very, very pretty. It's extremely pretty. I could also hold it double with mohair. I might have enough for a t-shirt or a tank top. If I held it double with mohair, I would have enough for a tank top. That is something I could do also, is hold it double with mohair and knit like a fun Jessie May tank top. Actually, that might be what I do with this. That's going to be what I do with this, is hold it double with mohair and knit a fun cropped tank top moment. But look how pretty. Just how pretty. Really, really soft. I didn't do any color management for this. I don't know if you've ever seen fiber from Jen at Wee Chickadee, but Jen does not dye in repeats. She just kind of like vibes. So I didn't do any sort of color management on it. I split the fiber in half widthwise, so I had 2 equal halves, spun it to 2 bobbins, plied it, called it done. It is just, I don't know. It's like, which one of these are my favorite? They're all my children. It's hard to pick. But I'm just laying them out next to me and I'm like, yeah, these are really pretty. They do need glamour shots. One of these days that will happen. This is the spin that I'm the least happy with. And I think I just need more practice on how to spin these. So this is Finnegal's Cave by Inglenook, and it's one of their like sticklebat sets. And I think I just need more practice spinning with textured fibers because the singles are uneven. Ooh, my camera does not like this. The singles are uneven, and then because the singles are uneven, the ply job, my camera really doesn't like this. I'm gonna stop messing with it. The ply job is uneven. It's not quite thick and thin. It's just not consistent. And then there's so much silk in it that I just was not sure how to really finish this. I have a lot of Inglenook stickabats because I really like the way they look. And I think, frankly, what I need to do, what I might try to do for my next one is run it through my drum carder so it's a tiny bit more blended before I start spinning it, because there's a lot of texture here. There's a lot of texture here, and this far away it's really pretty. Up close, it's not my favorite because I like consistent spinning. And I think I just need more practice with spinning texture, or to make this a less textured prep, which, you know, choose your own adventure. This is your fiber. This is your yarn. You can do what you want with it. It's really pretty though. I think I got 300 yards of 2-ply yarn. And I'm looking at it again. There's definitely some places where it's underplied. It is going to hold together fine in knit fabric. But it's my least consistent yarn of the bunch. And that's because, again, there was so much going on in this. There's silk. There's like 3 different sheep fibers in there. There's wool. Was it wool naps or sari naps? There's a lot going on. And not to dissuade anybody who likes that sort of thing. It's just texture is hard for me to figure out what to do because I just like real easy, real zen yarns. I'm spinning sticklebats on my drop spindle, and I think it's coming out a little bit more consistent than this did. So I'm wondering if like the pre-drafting, like I didn't pre-draft with these, so I'm also wondering if pre-drafting would have helped. I honestly think I'm just going to run it through my drum carder just once so that I'm not like fully blending it out, but just smoothing out a lot of the silk and kind of like making it a little bit easier on myself to spin it the next time. Because I think the last time I checked, I probably have like 4 more sticklebat sets from Inglenut because I just really enjoy them. So I'm going to have to figure out how to spin them so I actually, you know, use them. Okay, I have these 2 delightful minis. These are not minis. These are 2 ounces each. And once upon a time, my friend Christopher at Flannel and Pearls and I were talking about color management and how color management can change knit fabric. And I had this idea where I was going to take a braid of fiber, split it in half, spin the 2 halves completely different, and then knit a muscle burrow hat by Isolde Teague, where you just knit, you fold it on itself, you wear it that way. And I was like, wouldn't it be fun if I have 2 different halves on my muscle burrow, and then depending on which way I wear it, you would have 2 different hats. So one of these is a fractal spin. I don't remember which one, and I didn't label it. One of these is a fractal spin, and one of these I spun opposite direction. So like I took the fiber, I split it in half, and then I spun one end A to B, and then I spun the other one B to A, so that they're opposite directions in terms of the dye job. This is Bee Eater on Tazhi, dyed by Adrienne at Hello Yarn, and Adrienne does dye in repeats, so it was a really easy choice to like really figure out how the colors are gonna play. And looking at it in the skein, it's not as obvious, but as I was spinning it, I was like, okay, I can totally see how these are gonna knit up. And I'm just gonna cast on another muscle burrow. Have I finished the first one I cast on? No. Is that gonna stop me from starting another one? Also no. These are just, I love the colors here. The fun part of spinning this was I ended up with exactly before washing, and I did not check my yardage on this one before washing, but before washing I ended up with exactly 270 yards in both skeins. It was like the freakiest thing that I ended up with 2 identical yardage. I was hoping to get close. The fact that they were the same blew my mind. Now this is Tazhi, so there's no way that's what I have left, because Tazhi is really famous for that bloom and that squish and really, you know, that elasticity and that bounce. So these skeins are probably like maybe 250 at this point, which is again more than enough for the muscle burrow hat, which I will put in the description box if you haven't seen. But here's the yarn. Really pretty colors. I mean, these are my jam. Real fun, real springy, real saturated, just really, really beautiful colors. And now I have 2 skeins. So I'm going to cast on with one. When I run out with the other, when I run out of that one, attach the other one, and then work my decreases, and I'll have a fun hat. Like, I think that'll look at that. That's going to be so fun in the spring, summer. I mean, it's spring right now. I need to, if I want it for spring, summer, I need to start it. It'll be fun when I get to it. And the last 2 yarns I have are just natural shades. We're going to unwrap them. I love my naturals. We're going to wrap them. So this is CVM from West Coast Colors, and this was gifted to me by my friend Melissa at Melly Knits, which I'm sure all of you spinners know all about Melly Knits at this point. If you don't know about Melly Knits, get your life. But Melissa gifted me a bat of CVM from West Coast Color. They have their own flock of CVM, and unless you're new here, you don't know this, but if you know anything about me, you know I'm a sucker for CVM. I love CVM so much. I think it has a lot of my favorite properties of fine wools without just being annoying like fine wools are. That's just, they are like the medium wools of the fine wool category. So they have that bounce, that elasticity, but they're just not, I find them more interesting to spin than like merino is. And I just love the yarns that I get. They're full of life, really full of body, just really interesting. And I really enjoyed spinning this. I really enjoyed spinning this. I spun this to one bobbin and then I chain plied it. So I'd get a 3-ply yarn to really maximize the like squish and the life and the handle of CVM. And I honestly don't remember what my yardage is. I was gonna make something up, but I don't remember. I don't remember what my yardage was. And my last skein of yarn is, realistically, this is a sample, but it's a really big sample. So I don't know if I'm calling it a sample anymore. This is Una. And Una is a Shetland fleece from my library. I got her in summer of 2022 from Ewereka Farms. And I was having a moment where I was like, do I want to comb a fleece? And so I grabbed Una and I combed up 4 ounces, which is why I'm like, this is a big sample. I combed up 4 ounces, spun her to 2 bobbins. Actually, I spun this on my new lace flyer from my Daedalus. So I did get the lace flyer from my Daedalus Starling, which goes faster than their normal flyer. You know me, I like to go vroom vroom. And so I spun this to 1 bobbin, and then decided that I wanted to 2-ply it. So I split it up and then plied it. And it was lace before it went in the wash. It is definitely closer to fingering weight yarn now. Okay, fully lost my train of thought. We're gonna start over. So when I spun this was lace weight. Coming out of the washing, it is definitely closer to fingering weight yarn. I think I got 420 yards of this. It's really pretty. I don't know that I have the patience to comb a whole fleece. We're just gonna talk about it. I think I might comb bits of it. I think it's nice to have combed yarn. I also don't... I spun this as close to worsted as I could, but I really remember kind of defaulting into like a continuous back sort of long draw situation because that's my favorite way to spin. And so I don't know that combing a whole fleece and then spinning a worsted yarn is for me. It was very fun to do. And if I could recreate this, I didn't do a control card, so I don't know that I can, but if I could recreate this, I would spin like maybe 8 more ounces and have 12 ounces of this yarn and then do something with it because it's really pretty. It's really like even. It's really soft, but I miss the life that's in a woolen spun yarn. So that was more of a lesson for me. And also really gratifying because it means that I will never try to comb a whole fleece. I did enjoy the combing. I did. I'm not going to lie and say I didn't enjoy the combing. It's just not something that I think in terms of like whole fleece processing is something that's really on my radar, but gorgeous yarn, gorgeous yarn. Yes. So that's it for my handspun show and tell. This is all the stuff that I've been working on. I mean, obviously there's stuff that's still on the bobbins and hasn't gotten plied. But yeah, I think this is in terms of yardage generated, we are definitely somewhere around the 15. That's an underestimation. There's probably 2,000 yards of yarn here. I'm really proud of all of it. I really can see ways that my spinning is getting more even. It's getting more reliable. It's just practice. Like, the practice of sitting down and doing some drafts and some trials all the time is just becoming really rewarding. And it's really cool to see how much my spinning is growing and seeing all the ways that I am becoming more consistent and all the ways that I'm spinning really like technically sound yarns. It's just really nice. It's a really nice way to like not bookend because I'm not done. It's a really nice way to like put a little progress pin in my spinning adventure. So yarn. So what else have I been up to? I did get a new spinning wheel. There is a new member of my flock, of my fleet, and one of these days I'll do a welcome to the flock video so you can meet her. I haven't named her yet. She's still unnamed. We are still falling in love. I'm still learning all the quirks and all the things that go into a wheel. But I did get a shacked flat iron. I've really wanted a Saxony style wheel for a long time. As someone who spins a lot of woolen spun yarns, spinning long draw on a castle wheel, it's not the gentlest thing to do on my body. Spinning on a Saxony, you can spin across your body, whereas if you're spinning long draw on a castle style wheel, you have to spin backwards, and that sort of repetitive motion was really putting some stress on my shoulder, was really starting to irritate my back, and so I was like, really limited to how long I could sit and spin. And I found that when I spun on my e-spinners, I could put my e-spinner to the left of me and mimic the motion of a Saxony style wheel, which is part of what cemented the decision that a Saxony style wheel was for me. So I found a shacked flat iron. The building of that thing was Not my favorite. That's all I'm going to say about it. Was not my favorite. Did I cry multiple times? Yes. Did Joshua have to help me? I was just like, I'm going to build this myself. This is my wheel. And then Joshua had to help me. So I didn't like throw the whole thing in the garbage at least 3 times. But we got her up and running and she is a dream. My only quibble is I just need more bobbins. And that's not the wheel's fault. I need more bobbins because I want to spin more things and I only have 3 bobbins and that is just not enough for me. As someone who has 21 bobbins for my electric eel 6 and the only reason I don't have more than 6 bobbins for my Starling is because those bobbins are expensive. Literally the only reason I don't have more bobbins is because those bobbins are expensive. I have 12 bobbins for my Lynne drum, and then I saw how much the flat iron bobbins were, and I was just like, oh no, another wheel with super expensive bobbins. And I'm sure there's like 3D printed bobbins I can find somewhere. I just got to do the legwork and do the digging. But I only have 3 for it right now, and I'm feeling the bobbin crunch. I really am, because if I want to spin a whole fleece to it, I'm going to have to like transfer singles off of bobbins, and all of that is not my jam. So eventually we will have to upgrade the number of bobbins I have for that. There's a few things I want eventually, obviously not right now. I want more bobbins. I would like the 8-ounce flyer. I do miss cross lacing and I'm still learning how to spin with hooks. This is not about the flat iron. We will do a video about the flat iron eventually, but that is an update. I have a new spinning wheel and I love her. I love her. I have 0 regrets. I love her so much. So I've been having carding parties for one at home because I'm really trying to get my fleeces prepared and processed so that I can spin them. I find that if I have all the fiber prepped before I started spinning, I would more reliably get them done than if I card a little bit, spin a little, card a little bit, spin a little, then I tend to burn out on the process. And because I have the Behemoth, which is right to the right of me, because I have the Behemoth, which is an electric carder, so I have my Fancy Kitty Little Tom wide, so I can reliably put 5 ounces on that carder at once, and it's electric, so I'm not like cranking it. I've been really getting the bats done. So I'll show you some fiber that I prepped. I have Elsie Mae. Oh, Elsie Mae, which is in my weekend slipover, which is right in the back. I'm not pointing at it. My weekend slipper, which is right back. Weekend slipper. Oh, the Lord, the word salad. My weekend slipover, which is right back here, I had a little bit of her fleece left, and by a little bit, I had 550 grams of it. So I carded the last of Elsie Mae. So this is the last of Elsie Mae's fleece. My bats are sitting in Ziploc bags, so they're not very pretty. Do I want to take them out? I'll take this one out and we'll see how hard it is to put it back. So here's Elsie Mae. This is a 125 gram bat, so it is pretty large. It's a pretty big bat. I got four bats out of the remainder of her fleece, and what I'm doing is I'm just storing them in gallon-sized Ziploc bags so that they retain their shape, and then I can put them on a shelf. So I've actually started spinning Elsie Mae. I started spinning one of the first bats. I did a little bit of like sampling to try to figure out what is the best yarn for, how I really wanted to spin it. What was the best approach to that? So I'm spinning that on my Starling. Because they have, really giant bobbins. So I can spin 1 bat to each bobbin, and it'll only take me 4 bobbins to spin it up. I don't know what I still don't know what I'm plying. I plied a 2-ply and I plied a 3-ply and I washed it up, and then I didn't knit a swatch. So I don't know which fabric I prefer. I'm going to spin all of it and then decide how to ply it. And that's, fine. And the other fleece I had a little bit left over was, this is Hawaii. Oh, she's fully washed out. Hawaii is a champagne colored Romney. I'm gonna have to put her back here because any closer and she disappears. Hawaii is a champagne colored Romney that I shared with my friend Meg. Meg's at Brioche and Brews. Did I say from Oak Creek Sheep? From Oak Creek Sheep. And this is a fleece that has just been like sort of lingering. Like I've been using little bits of it. I did some blends with it. I did some fun stuff with it, but I've just had it lingering. And one of my goals is to like get all of these little residual bits spun up or carded or whatever, and then move on to my whole fleeces. Because you guys know this, I have a lot of wool. And all of the older stuff, like both of those were purchased. Well, Elsie Mae was my first fleece ever. I don't know that I've ever said that. Elsie Mae was my first fleece ever. It was the first raw fleece that I bought by myself and processed. And Hawaii I got in 2022. And so it's really easy sometimes when like new stuff comes in to like forget all the stuff you have in storage. And so I'm on a mission to get all the stuff I have in storage carded and spun, or carded and put in other people's hands, so that I can then move on to some of the new stuff that I have that's really sparking joy. Because it sparked joy before, and it, like, when I pulled it out, like, I went in my closet and pulled out bags and bags and bags of wash wool, and it was just things that I'd forgotten was in there. So this is great for me. Spinning Elsie Mae's great. I love Finn. I really, really, really enjoy Finn. Really, really enjoy Finn. So spinning Elsie Mae is great. She's spinning up like charcoal, like not quite black, but like a really, really dark, really like sparkly, high luster charcoal. I'm really excited to see what that yarn looks like. So I don't know if I'm going to go straight to Hawaii from there. I don't know what the plan is, but the point is it's carded and it's ready, so that whenever I decide I'm ready to start spinning it up, I don't have to wrestle with like, and as much as I'm wrestling with the behemoth because it does all the work, I don't have to wrestle with the carding. It's just ready. So that's what I've been up to in terms of fiber prep. I have some other stuff that I've been up to in terms of fiber prep, but we will talk about it later. And lastly, in terms of knitting, I do have some accessories that I've been working on. Do I have like a million sweaters that I've cast on and made zero progress over the last few months? Yes, do not talk to me about it. Do not at me. We are not in sweater knitting land. Although I was pulling them all out today and I was just like, ooh, I probably should work on one of these. So maybe we might get back to sweater knitting land, but I've been working on a lot of accessories recently, partially because apparently putting a sock in your bag is the way you get socks knit. Like, I've heard people talk about this for a while, is that putting a sock in your bag is how you get your socks done. Having a sock on the go is a good thing. And also, like, I knit on my accessories during D&D. It's just easier. I mean, as someone who knit like 3/4 of a pressed flowers cardigan, the wool's escaping. As someone who knit 3/4 of a pressed flowers cardigan during D&D, I can knit a sweater. But it's just kind of easier these days to, like, because we're level 19 and things are fraught, to knit an accessory. So the first thing that I've shown you is a sock. These look comically long. I have big feet. These are comically long. I wear a US 12, a women's 12. And these are the DRK Everyday Socks. And I spun the yarn for this and cast this on when Andrea was doing her spin along knit along, which was like March of 2022. That is how long. And I cast these on. I spun the yarn and cast these on and got this far. This is literally where I got. So I picked it back up like a week and a half ago, and I've just been knitting on it when I'm outside. So I probably would be finished if I was knitting on it at home, but this literally stays in my purse. And I knit on it when I'm commuting or when I'm, like, you know, sitting at like a coffee shop waiting to like meet up with friends or any of those other things. I have turned the heel. So this yarn is Cyclical Reckoning on Corriedale by Three Waters Farm. And what I did, I'm dropping everything. What I did was I split my cake in half before I started knitting, because since this is toe up socks, my plan was just to knit until I ran out of yarn. And I'm very glad I did that, because I think I wouldn't have had enough if I knit it like the opposite way. And I think I might just do toe up socks forever. As someone who has large feet and needs to make sure they have enough enough yarn for the foot. So this is all I have left. Like, it's not much. It's not much at all. This is all I have left. So I'm just going to knit the leg till I run out and bind off and start the second sock. I am knitting these on Addi Flexi Flips. I started at Magic Loop. It was not quite my vibe. Addi Flexi Flips feels like a fun middle ground between DPNs and Magic Loop. And we know how I feel about DPNs. They're the devil's personal instruments. They're just unorganized bits of chaos and metal. But the Flexi Flips feel good because, like, I'm not worried about losing my stitches. If you've ever seen Flexi Flips, they're like this. I do have a needle. Where's the other needle? Here we go. Here's what the Flexi Flips look like if you've never seen them. So they are pretty much double pointed needles, but they have like a little cord in between them. And so I put my stitches on the cord when I'm putting it in my bag. And I don't feel like I'm worried about losing stitches. And then I'm not wrangling with all the extra length of cord that Magic Loop requires. So they come in a set of 3. So you're not wrestling with 5 needles. And I find that I'm like knitting pretty quickly. I'm knitting these on US 1s, and this is the largest women's size. And yeah, here's my sock. Actually, it looks pretty cool on camera. I kind of like this color striping. I'm hoping to get this done. Honestly, because I don't knit it at home, I don't know when I'm going to get it done. It'll get done when it gets done. And I'll start the next one immediately. But I think having a sock on the go is like the vibe. It's the vibe. Here's the other cake, so I can show you what it looks like. So here's the other cake. So yeah, this is Cyclical Reckoning. It is a very, I don't know why I picked this color to spin for socks. It's like, you know, a darker color. But I kind of really like it knit up. I don't know why I picked this. But again, this was like March 2022 Tazhi energy. I don't know why they did any of the things they did back then. You know, I am not responsible for their choices. The other accessory that I have is the distance scarf. Oh my gosh, I should have written down the pattern designer's name. I will, you know, put it somewhere. And I started this because I really wanted to practice cabling without a cable needle. And I have learned how to do it. And I was so impressed after I learned how to do it that I stopped knitting on the scarf. So I probably should pick the scarf back up. I love the idea of like a tiny little like neck scarf moment. So here's the distance scarf. Here's how far I got. I'm knitting this out of tuku wool, which is like a fun Finnish wool in the color Rosa. And I knit all these cables without a cable needle, which I'm so proud of myself. It was not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. It was not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. It just took like the right tutorial for me to like pick it up. And actually this scarf is kind of intuitive to knit because like the cable pattern just like, obviously the cable pattern repeats. This is not like novel information, Tashiana. But like, it's not hard to knit. I feel like it's really intuitive and I'm really enjoying the knitting. I just put it down and forgot that I was working on it. And I was looking for the things that I've been knitting on over the last 3 months. And I was like, hey, I started this scarf back in January. I worked on it when I went away for a weekend and brought it back home and have yet to work on it since. So maybe I should pick this back up. Maybe. I'm going to add it to the list of things that I'm going to pick back up and work on, you know, which gets longer by the day, to be quite honest. I have zero business starting new projects, honestly. Knitting. I start spinning projects every day. I have zero business starting new knitting projects. Like, I need to, like, at least bind off something. Like, I need that win of binding off something before I start something new, which is why I'm really hoping to get at least one of those socks done so I could just go, hey, guys, I finished half of a thing. And here's my last accessory. This is the small fry scarf by my friend Sam. That's not her name. Her name's Samantha Guerin. And I've made a fair bit of progress on this because this is my new D&D project. So it sits on my desk while I'm playing D&D. And it's so easy to knit. It's not like there's no purling. Is that fair to say? That's true. There's no purling in this entire scarf. I think this technique is called cartridge ribbing. So it gives you the look of ribbing, but there's no purling. And I really wanted a fun, saucy, like red-orange scarf moment after I saw a few of her testers knit it in this yarn. And this is Rose Hip by Coast to Coast Yarn Co. Erin of Coast to Coast Yarn Co. Erin did a coffee house pre-order and I only got one skein of this because I knew I wanted it for a small scarf moment. I did not know what pattern I was going to knit until I saw Samantha launch this, and that's when I was sold. Here's a fun stitch marker for you. I love Hello Lavender. Reshma stitch markers are my favorite stitch markers and they're in 99% of my projects. And this one is from a secret like monthly fiber club that she did with Lauren at Little Fiber Co. So I get the fiber and then I get a fun little stitch marker every month. And honestly, the stitch markers have been on point. So I thought it would be fun to put a green one to have like high contrast with the red. That's my progress keeper. I need to move it to the top for the next time I start knitting on it. But yeah, that's how much I knit in like 3 hours of D&D. So it's really quick knitting. I am knitting it with the chart. I know that there are people who are just like, oh, I memorized the chart really quickly. That is not the brain that I have. It will not be a thing that I am doing. So I'm knitting it with a chart, but I think I have 3 more repeats before I start the decreases. So this might be the thing that I get bound off first, honestly. This might be my win. Because like, once you get past the increases and you start decreasing, the rows just go faster and faster and faster. And honestly, it's not hard knitting. It's like knit 3, slip 1. It's really fun. Highly recommend this pattern. Also, I think everybody deserves a tiny sassy little red French scarf moment. Everyone deserves one. Treat yourself. So really that's all that I've been up to, which is like, you know, a fair amount. It is May, which is Me Made May season. And I went back and forth about if I was going to participate in Me Made May, how I was going to participate in Me Made May, if I was going to show up as fully this year as I did last year. And I think what I decided to do in terms of my own Me Made May adventure is a lot of the stuff that I've made over the years that I've been sewing, the 2 years that I've been sewing, was very high femme. I was very attracted to like really pretty dresses, like high-waisted fit and flare situations. And that is just not my vibe. Not anymore. Or at least not every day. And so I think my challenge for myself for this Me Made May was figuring out ways to style the things that I've made so that they continue to get love, but also don't make me feel bad wearing them, is like the easiest way I could say that. And so I've just been thinking about ways to like grunge up my dresses, like mask up my dresses. And I think that's going to be my project for Me Made May. I don't know that I'm going to, well, one, I'm not going outside every day like I did last year. I'm not doing that. I'm not forcing myself to go outside and get dressed every day. And I also don't know that I'll take a picture every single day that I go outside, but I'm really like being thoughtful and intentional about what I want to wear from my Me Mades, but also like really point out the gaps in my wardrobe. Like I realized that I don't have lots of bottoms. I have so many dresses and I don't have a lot of bottoms, and I still wear skirts. I still love a good skirt moment. So I'm like, do I need more skirts? Do I want more pants? And then if I want more pants, do I want hard pants? Do I want swishy lounge pants? Do I want like pull on linen elastic waist pants? And I think that's going to be the thing that really like I want to pay attention to, because I've been in a little bit of a sewing rut. I did make something fun. I will put a picture here. I made like a full-on outfit. I made a basque dress, and I made like a closet core rose top, and I ran around the Botanic Garden in fun shoes, and that was fun. It was 100% a vibe. But I've been in a bit of a making rut, like sewing wise, and I think it's just like the idea of like hauling out my table and cutting the fabric and everything else while my energy levels have just not been up there. And I think that Me Made May was the thing I needed to get myself out of that slump and back making, so that I'm continuing to craft a wardrobe that like reflects me and who I am and where I am right now. So I love Me Made May. Also, people are like sharing such cool stuff online, which is like really energizing and really inspiring. So I just need to I gotta get my head in the game, get out of my slump, and figure out what showing up for me looks like this season. I have posted 2 pictures. I will put them here. I remember how to do that. Future Tazhi, I'm giving Future Tazhi so much work to do, and I don't know that Future Tazhi deserves this. I will try to remember to put pictures here of the things that I've worn so far. And yeah, and just continue to show up. I will hopefully give you guys updates when the month is over on what I got done and what I've been making. Yeah, that's it, guys. That's it. This was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. I was a little concerned that I was going to sit down and I was going to start talking and I was going to forget how to do this. And this was actually considerably easier than I thought it was going to be. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have the most magical day. I hope your making is bringing you the most joy and it's like everything you need right now. And if you aren't making anything fun and you just need permission, here's me giving you permission to drop everything and make time for you and make times for the things that, fill your cup. I love you. Go make something fun today.